Welcome to Seeing with Your Soul, a safe and sacred place to be vulnerable, to be transparent, to be authentic. I am your host, Tisha Michelle. From the deep pain and loss of my best friend Gloria, I realized she gave me the greatest gift ever, remembering my purpose in life, which is to help connect you to your authentic self, guide you to remember your purpose, and remind you that your current circumstance doesn't define who you are. Join me as we heal, align, and glow together. Oh my gosh, guys, Happy New Year, and welcome back to another episode of Seeing with Your Soul with me, your host, Tisha Michelle. I hope you guys really enjoyed ringing in the new year. No matter what you did or what you didn't do, I hope you felt truly blessed, especially if you are someone who really struggled with 2020. Not everybody struggled with 2020. A lot of people also thrived, and there was a lot of people who lost loved ones. So I really just hope, transitioning from, the calendar year of 2020 into 2021, I hope you guys felt some form of gratitude and felt like you were truly, truly blessed. So for me, I chilled in my pajamas all New Year, I rang in the new year with my baby boy and my mother, and it was cool. I run out to the living room and I turned the TV on so I could watch the ball drop, and it was a little different watching it because normally, it's packed with people and it's this whole shebang of concerts and people, performing and stuff. But it was the whole time that it was on, it was on a split screen. So there was news going on. So it was definitely different than what we're used to until the actual ball dropped. So, did the countdown, and that was great. And then I went back into the room and, continued chilling. And it felt good. I didn't feel like I was forced to stay in, or that this New Year's had to be, different, because of, COVID or anything. I really was 100% good with the way that I brought in the new year. It felt amazing. So then the next day, which was the first, I didn't feel any pressure to get to work or to grind because it was January 1. But what I did was, again, stayed in my pajamas, and I just chilled, and I just, I relaxed, and some very profound things dropped in. And what it was my relaxing created so much space for me, right? And I wasn't even intentional with it. I didn't even say okay, my intention is to just chill today and just create some space and hope some things pop in or anything of that. It was just a natural flow. I was just good. I didn't want to go anywhere, and I just felt great. And it was my body was just just chill. And that was what my body needed. And like I said, some profound things, dropped in, and I'm where's my notebook? Where's my notebook? So for that, I am very grateful. So, in this present moment, that is what I am grateful for. So in this moment, what are you guys grateful for? However, before we get started, let's get centered. So unless you are driving, I want you to go ahead and close your eyes. And for those of you who are driving, you can still take these deep breaths with us. Just don't close your eyes. All right, so now I want you guys to take a nice deep breath of just breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. All right, let's do another one. A nice deep breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And last one, another nice long deep breath, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Doesn't that feel good? It always feels good to just be so intentional with our breathing, right? All right, so what are you guys grateful for? How are you guys feeling? Are you guys feeling with being 2021? Right? I've always just really looked at it it's just the calendar year, the calendar reset. But I would be silly for myself to say that there's not an energy shift that's being, created. And it is. So while, nothing changes unless you change, there's a lot of energy around the fact that we are going into a new year. So with all that collective energy, there is some form of a shift, right? So how are you feeling transitioning into there? Are you someone who started making adjustments in 2020 and you just transitioned into 2020 with already, how can I say this, laying a new foundation? I know that's what I did. Right. So it wasn't like I waited till January 1st to start something new. I just transitioned so I could just continue to build upon it. Now, there are some things that was started, for January, such as like the way I do my bookkeeping. Right. So not have it so messy I started to transition in December to simplify things and to have this bank account business for this and this like for this and pay myself on this. Like those things I did, I started to, first of all, I had to come up with a plan, but the transition for the first, and the reason being is because that's how your booking goes for tax purposes, right? So, things like that, were for like, okay, come January 1, things are going to be going into here because that needed to be the case. So I could be able to keep things in a simple way. But as far as like the big changes, the internal changes, those things started, before January 1. Because I know that any moment I can just say, screw it. Here's a blank slate. Here's a blank, canvas, and I'm ready to create, and I'm ready to, create and co-create alongside of the universe. Design what it is that I want based off of my desires and not based off of my beliefs, right? In that sense. So yeah. So what are you guys grateful for? Say it out loud. Say it in your head. Journal it. Do what you do. Just express some of that gratitude and just scan your life and just say thank you. Say thank you. And just, when you do that, you're also just giving yourself some grace. Giving yourself some grace because maybe you have struggled or maybe you have been torn, and just, reflecting on 2020, you actually seen that you grew and you've started to evolve. Right. So yeah, gratitude time, baby. All right. So have you guys seen the movie Soul? Oh my gosh. If you haven't, please do. I'm like gonna make that like I struggle to like, if you're gonna like work with, or you decide that you want to work with me, I'm gonna be like, you have to watch the movie Soul first. So let's start to lay that foundation there, right? So Soul is a animated movie, right? And it's on Disney Plus. And it's about this middle school jazz teacher who accidentally dies after landing like this like dope gig of his life, right? So he landed this job, this gig or whatever, means something that he's been dreaming about his whole life. And then he like accidentally like dies. And it's like, wait, what just happened here? But I don't want to give away like too much because I want you guys to watch it if you haven't already watched it, right? So it's an animated movie, and I was like, I seen people posting about it, and you know how like that wave hits and people are like, oh, have you seen Soul? Have you seen Soul? And I'm like, first of all, just the name of it, Soul, definitely resonated with me, right? But I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna check it out. But then it just hit me, and probably about a week went by from when people were, you know what, I'm capping over here. It wasn't, because I think it came out on Christmas. So it probably was like about 2 or 3 days how it went by. And then I was like, you know what, I need to watch this. I need to watch it. So I was like, oh, let's watch it with my son. And, probably about 10, 15 minutes into it, he was like, can I play the game? I was like, boy, get out of here. Which was good in that sense because I needed to watch it. So, while watching it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like the visual of what I talk about and what I know to be like true for me, and things that I say to my clients, things that I say to just people in general. I was like, this is like the visual like version of it. And it was so powerful and just had me just reevaluating my life, really just like thinking. And I'm talking about this movie like connected to like my soul, that I had to watch it twice, right? So I just wanted to share with you. You need to watch it, so I'm not going to necessarily like just tell you like everything like in it. And even if I did tell you, it's still nothing like actually watching it. But there were some gems, talking about gems being dropped, but some like deep things. So I wanted to share them with you. And these are in no particular order. But like I said, I had to go back and watch it like I grab my notebook. I'm like, let's take some notes here. And so I wanted to share some of those things that stood out to me. So one of the things that he said was in there that was said was, is all this living really worth dying for? And, once you watch it and you see like the rest of the things that went with it, it really made me think, right? And I had done a podcast on this about, are you existing or are you living? And then the other day, I actually talked about this in a Clubhouse room that I hosted. So when I watched the movie, and that instantly stood out to me because I was like, yo, I was just talking about this and I talked about it on a podcast, and then like, boom, like they say this. So, to me, I look at everything from a deeper standpoint. I'm like, wow, I've talked about this. And then I just did this Clubhouse, room, I think like the day before I watched this, and I'm like, universe, you talking to me, right? And it made me, evaluate, right? So for me, I look at it, okay, so again, is all this living really worth dying for? So you do have to question yourself and to say, am I living or am I just existing? Like, what am I doing, right? So it's like you can't even really answer that question until you can realize that foundation, like, are you living or are you existing? So existing to me is being on autopilot, right? And just doing the same thing over and over and over, the mundane, and thinking that it's only, for you to go to work, take care of these bills, be stressed out about the relationships in your life, and rinse and repeat, that type of thing, right? And then when you're living, you're open to change, right? You know that there's more to life than this. There's more to life than just paying bills, right? You create that sense of like flow, right? And I talk more about this, like I said, on a previous podcast. So you can just go, if you haven't listened to it, or maybe you need to listen to it again. And I believe I titled it, Are You Living or Existing? And I go a lot deeper into there. So for me, I toddle between the two. I can be honest with you guys. I don't operate from a space of just living, being in that space. There are times where I'm air quotes over here, guys, just existing. And what I have learned now, because for many years I operated from a place of existing. That's it, right? But now I toddle between them. But I'm so much more consciously aware of when I need to tap into that existing. And when I say that existing, that's a part of the survival mode, right? But instead of being in the survival mode of like, I'm just existing and I just got to do this and I got to do what I got to do, I kind of like channel some of that energy, but to use it in a more powerful way where I don't feel stuck. It's just when I know that being in that existing phase and being in that survival mode did get me to where that I am. It did get me into like, okay, you're not holding me back. I'm going to make this shit happen because I have to make this happen because it's a do or die, like that survival mode where I have to eat and I have to make sure my kids are okay. So this is like what that is. So instead of coming from that place before many years where it was like literally survival, I tap into like that energy that I had where I really just believed in what it was that I was going to do. And I made it more, I guess you could say more positive and powerful. So I do, toddle between the two, but I just kind of finding like this bridge into not falling into that. Now, that's not to say that I don't fall into a space where I worry and I just be like, oh my God, in this existing phase and stuff. And I do, but I'm so much more consciously aware, right? So check out that podcast and kind of see where you fall in at. And neither one is right or wrong, at all. We're still going off of like our beliefs and how we were programmed, right? But if you really just say like, is all this living really worth dying for? But then it's like, are you even living? Right? Like, are you even living or are you just existing? So there's another quote or two that also ties this part into it. So that one really stood out to me. The second one was where he said, Lord knows, well, one of the characters said, Lord knows we need more teachers in this world. And we do. And when I say teachers, I don't mean just the traditional way that we're used to like in the schools and stuff, but like really teaching, like experience is the greatest teacher, right? So what are some of the things that you've experienced and you've overcome, right? And you've overcome by, changing the mindset, switching like your perspective, because through the experience that you had and that you're able to like share along the way. That resonated with me because some of the things that was dropping in was that I need to kind of switch more into teaching. And I teach when I'm working with my clients and stuff. But what was given to me was to share a little more, on social media, not just to share on social media, but to teach through it, use the platform to teach. And one of the things that dropped in for me, while I was watching, the movie, when it got to like that point was, I just start talking about our chakras, right? And it's easy to say these certain things like everything you need is within you. And why am I drawing a blank? Like everything that you need is within you, or meditate, or go do this, or get out in nature, and all those things. And I can say those things. Now, when I'm working one-on-one with my clients, I teach, but what about the people who aren't able to, work with me in that sense? How can I still share some of these things? So the chakras was the first thing. So what if you're not following me, on Instagram, I'm at Mindset Slayer. Go check it out, kind of scroll through and see. And if these things resonate with you, follow me so you can, get a little more. So what I'm doing right now is I'm introducing people to our chakras, and our chakras are energy points in our body. There's these energy points. We have a lot of chakras, but we have our 7 main ones, and they all represent a lot of how we maneuver in life. So I just started this. Well, by the time you see it, I'll probably be almost done with it. But I just introduced already and shared what our chakras are. And then each day I'm introducing, the first chakra, the second, and stuff. But just teaching you and just seeing if it resonates with you, or with the intention to see that it'll open you up to, seeing and understanding a lot more about your body and how you can adjust and do these things and all. So I'm going to do a lot more teaching. I'm going to do a lot more teaching through my podcast. I'm going to do a lot more teaching through my social media, as well as even over there on Clubhouse. So think about the things that you have experienced and you have learned and you have gone through. Share it. Share it with the world. Share it with the world. It's going to resonate with someone, and it's going to help someone along the way. So the third thing was, they said, can't crush a soul here. That's what life on earth is for. And you have to watch it, like I said, to get the rest of the contents with that part. But what stood out to me was, that's what life on earth is for. Have you ever felt so good about something, whether it was a business or it was an idea or something you just wanted to do? Maybe you were looking to like buy this home or get this car, something, right? You just felt so good about it. And then you shared it with someone and they like shot it down with all this negative stuff. And you just felt like someone literally punched you in the stomach, or someone like ripped your heart out, right? Like you just felt crushed because you felt so good about something. And then someone just came through and just stomped on that shit, right? And I mean, I guess it's safe to say like a majority of people have felt like that. I have, before. Years ago, but because now I know to protect that shit. Anyway, like, that's so true. Like, to me, I'm like, it's so true. Like, people here on earth will literally crush your soul. Crush your soul based off of their own insecurities or their own traumas or their own unhealed wounds, and don't even really realize what they are doing. And I think it's so important for us to protect our energy, but also to make sure that you're not someone that's going around crushing people's souls. And you know what? The thing is, it is easy for your soul to be crushed in that sense. And the reason why I say that is because our ego comes in and we got doubt and stuff in there. And even though we feel good about something, but something someone may say that just really crushes your soul is something that already popped in your head. So in your mind, you think, oh, they just validated how it is that I feel, so it must be true. And now you feel like shit. And that's not the case. So, really when I was really thinking about this, I was like, damn, there's a lot of like soul crushers out here, and I do believe people should really evaluate themselves and make sure they're not one of them. And also protect yourself, from people. So if you really feel amazing and great about something, of course you want to express it, but, be very mindful of who you are expressing like this with. So it doesn't get crushed and you fall into this space of, doubting yourself even more in that sense. So number 4, I'm just afraid that if I died today, my life would have amounted to nothing. So that kind of goes back to, is all this living really worth dying for? So, I have another podcast that I did that said, if you had 24 hours to live, what would you do? Right? Like, who would you be with? What are some of the things that you would do? What are some of the things that you'd be like, I wouldn't even be thinking about these things, or any of that. When I heard this, I've had some people throughout my life that have said that if they were to die today, that they would be okay with it. And I thought that was beautiful, because they really felt like they lived their life. They've enjoyed, they've done things that they wanted to do, and they would be okay if they died. And when I think about that, and, I'm just afraid that if I died today, my life would have amounted to nothing. And when I think about that personally, now, since these past 3 years, being on this self-discovery journey, I've done so much more in my life in these 3 years than my whole entire life. And when I say that, doesn't mean like physical things, but just the adjustments and the changes and the realizations and the inner work and switching the mindset and the perspective. And part of me could say, I think I would be okay with it, because I know that I've evolved and grown, maybe not fully into where my soul is destined and desiring to go, but I know that I have evolved, and I know that I have grown, and I know that I have also been of service to a lot of people, and that makes me feel good. So, I told between them, like, but I ain't dying no time soon, y'all. Like, I got so much more to do. Like, but I think that's a good question to really ask yourself, even though the quote was, I'm just afraid that if I died today, my life would have amounted to nothing. So if you really, rephrase it into a question for yourself, like ask yourself, what are your thoughts on that? Are you living? Are you existing? Do you feel like your life has mounted to something or to nothing? Like, really, like, think about it. Think about that. So number 5, it says, a spark isn't a sole purpose. So the spark isn't a sole purpose. So in the movie, Joe, he had this revelation, and it was that a spark isn't a soul's purpose. Rather, it's a sign that you are ready to live life on earth. And definitely got to watch it to really see how he came to that conclusion. So I'm digging deep, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay. My last episode before this, I touched on a question that a listener had about our purpose. And, I just said, I really believe that it's more about understanding and embracing that you do have a purpose, here. And once you start to live your life, those things will start to really unravel for you. But what is your spark? Like, what sparks you? What sparks you to be like, yo, I'm just ready to live? Like, what is that thing or those things? Now, when you watch the movie, it helps you to understand it. So again, if you haven't watched it, please watch it. If you have watched it, go watch it again. Nothing's wrong with that. Go watch it again and see if anything else opens up for you. So I want you guys to watch it and just really start to think about, like, what is your spark? What sparks you? Do you believe you already found that spark, that thing or those things that just, gives you the sign that you're just like ready to live life on earth, like really like live? Just think about it, like, what's your spark? 6. It says, we're in the business of inspiration, Joe, but it's not often we find ourselves inspired. How many of you, say like, oh my gosh, I give people the best advice, but I just can't give it to myself. I've even been there before plenty of times. I'd be like, damn, that was good. Like, I'm going to use that, like, for me. So what that made me really think about, again, it was, he said, we're in the business of inspiration, Joe, but it's not often we find ourselves inspired. So we can give all this inspiration and, you know, and help to empower other people, but we don't feel empowered, or we don't, you know, always feel inspired. And what that made me think about was, what inspires you? What inspires me? And I believe that we need to explore. And the more that we can explore things, we can start to see what is giving this, you know, what inspires us or what makes us feel good. But that's just getting out of that existing phase of doing the same things over, only looking at it from just one lens versus looking at it from many lenses, and just like exploring the world, exploring and trying new and different things to really see, like, God, how did that inspire me? Was it a book? Was it a movie? Was it something someone said? Was it going to, you know, hiking? And it just like, it just made you feel so good and just inspired you to really, truly see the world. Like, what inspires you? And I just truly believe that just comes from just exploring, really doing different things, opening yourself up to just a lot more, you know, in life, just to really, like I said, just to really open you up versus doing the same thing over and over and over and just feeling like, yeah, I can inspire these people and I can help these people, but no, nothing inspires me. But the thing is you're in like, it's like, you know, in that box that they talk about, you know, where it's like you're in a cage with the doors open. And it's like, bruh, like, you gonna leave, or you just gonna stay there and just, what you gonna do? So, okay, so real quick again. So is all this living really worth dying for? Lord knows we need more teachers in this world. Can't crush a soul here. That's what life on earth is for. I'm just afraid that if I died today, my life would have amounted to nothing. A spark isn't a sole purpose. We're in the business of inspiration, but it's not often we find ourselves inspired. So those were the ones that really stood out to me. Honestly, there was some more, but yeah, I wasn't like writing all of them down. Like the whole movie was just dope and was just really just dope. And I was like, man, whoever wrote this or the people that wrote it, I'm like, man, are they in tune? Awesome. Like, I would love to see a lot more of this. And yeah, so those are the ones that stood out to me. And I wanted to share them with you. One, because I want you to watch the movie. Like, the simple fact that you even listen to this podcast, I'm like, you definitely probably have already watched it. If not, you're going to go watch it because it's definitely going to be up your alley. And, you know, really to like listen. And this is how like the universe works. And, you know, I've talked about this before. If you've been listening to, you know, to me for a while, the universe will speak to us through people, through songs, through books, through movies, right? And you will hear something in there and it will spark. There goes that word, spark. It will spark something in you that then opens you up to explore. And as you're exploring, you're just learning so much more. And you're also creating this space for these other things to come through. So like, is all this living really worth dying for? It sparked in me to question myself. Am I living or am I existing? What space am I in right now? And how do I transition? So when I was on Clubhouse and I was talking about this, there was a girl on there who wanted to chime in on what the conversation was about. And I love that, you know, first of all, I don't know her. And I love that she was, you know, willing to jump in the conversation. And she was like, I agree with you of the existing and the living. She was like, but what I don't hear a lot of conversations about is that bridge going from existing to living. And I was like, now I know that I talk about that, right? But that's just my one person. So I know I talk about that, you know, especially when I'm working with like my clients, right? However, she's right. There's really, from what I've seen anyway, there's not much of showing what that bridge is to go from that existing into that living. And see, for me, that catalyst was my best friend dying, because I was in that space of existing and survival mode, not thriving, but surviving for years. And, you know, her passing, you know, was like that jolt, like that rip your heart out and punch you in the stomach at the same time. Also, while you're fucking confused mentally, right? And that was that catalyst that just like shook me to start questioning things and said, wait a minute, there has to be more to life than this, because if this is it, that existing, right? That existing faith. If this is it, I don't want to be here anymore. It's stupid. This is dumb. This makes no sense, right? That was the space that I was in. So that catalyst, that jolt, that spark opened me up to say, there has to be more to life than this. Because if this is it, I don't want to be here anymore. God, universe, my higher power was like, oh, finally, you asking some deep questions. Finally, you having some type of realization. So now I'm going to answer your question. And that is what sparked me to start living. And in that early phase, because my eyes were so wide open, it was like my eyes got bigger. It was like I had been wearing like goggles that was hella foggy, and that the fog started to disappear. And then the goggles came off. And I was like, holy shit, life is amazing. The sky is so blue. The grass is so green. And I'm dead ass was saying things like that. Like, what the fuck? It was like everything looked different. And I felt like, and I kept saying this, I was like, it's like I'm just skateboarding through life. Mind you guys, I don't even skateboard. But it's what I felt like it is. Because when I see people skateboarding and just gliding on through, I just feel like they feel so carefree and just free itself and just good. And that was what I felt like. You know, so that was that spark that had me open up to really living. And part of my mission, it was, I don't want people to experience that spark or that jolt to really start opening their eyes up and to start living because someone died. Now, I can't stop you guys from having a loved one or someone, you know, like dying. I can't do that. However, I can play my part in teaching and sharing what other things and ways and creating that safe space for you to feel free and to feel vulnerable and to be transparent and just to be open to receive another perspective, not telling you what you should do or you shouldn't do, but just opening you up to another way that maybe something along that way sparks you to really say, you know what? I know that there's more to life than what it is that I'm doing right now. And I'm open to receive that. So she's right. There's not a lot of conversations being had around that bridge from existing to living. And I'm going to continue to do my part to have those conversations. But this is something that you guys can do as well, too. You start operating from that place of living, because you know what? I'm going to surrender and I'm open to change. I'm open to change. You know, I've been doing the same shit for a little while, and clearly I'm like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm going to surrender. Universe, you know, do your thing. And as you start to see a shift or a change, whether you feel like it's small or big, it doesn't matter. Growth is growth. Evolution is evolution. Share that. Change the conversation with people and you share your story. Share your story. And it doesn't have to be on a big platform. It could be on a big platform. It could just be with one person. And you just say, hey, man, things have just really started to change, you know, when I started to ... And all you're doing is just sharing and changing the conversation. And one word you say may spark something in another person. And then there's that ripple effect, right? And it just keeps going and going and going and going. And we start to really shift the energy of the collective. And like, how amazing, like, is that? Right? So, once again, guys, please go watch Soul. I promise you I'm not getting no kickback from Disney. But no, seriously, please watch Soul. If you already watched it before, make some time and go watch it again and see if something else resonates. See if something else sparks, like, you know, within you. And I want you guys to share with me, like, you can send me a message. You already know, y'all do that on Instagram, or you can email me. Just click the link in my bio. It'll, you know, take you to be able to like contact me. And just tell me what was something that really stood out to you when you watched like Soul, or, you know, what is something in there that sparked you, and what did it spark you to? I'm just trying to be all up in y'all business. That's it. So share it with me. Until next time, guys, love, peace, magic, miracles, dopeness. I'm just sending you some high vibes. Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in to #certified. If anything resonated with you, I would love to continue the conversation. You can follow me on Instagram at @itistisha. And if you want to be a part of the #certified tribe, you can join my Facebook group by going to the search tab and putting in #certified. My website is conversationswithtisha.com. As always, have a great one on purpose. Love you.